I would say about 2 to 3 days, maybe 4 tops, is a good amount of days to spend here in Santorini. Now, you might think 4 days is too much, considering the island is not that big. I mean, you can rent a car or a scooter, and you'll be able to see the whole island in one day. But if you're coming here and simply relax and get away from everything, then 4 days should be enough. The food here alone will probably make you want to stay even longer. Well, unfortunately for us, we pretty much spent only one day here, and now we're going back to Athens. If you didn't know, coming here wasn't really part of our plan, we just decided to add it at the last minute. Oh, and if you're wondering where I am right now, this is the pool located right behind our hotel. Alright, so we woke up a little late. Well, it's still early, it's like around 10 o'clock in the morning. And this is the other side of the island. But we're gonna go to the other side, where the beautiful area of the island, I should say. And we're gonna check out. We're actually checked out already. We're just gonna go there, walk around a little bit, have lunch. We're gonna wait for the restaurant that we want to eat at. It opens at 12, so we're gonna go there and eat, and then fly back to Athens. Yeah, so that's the plan. Just in case you didn't see my previous video, our plan the day before was to rent a car and drive through the whole island. But since we didn't have an international driver's license, we pretty much ended up spending the whole day here in the town of Fira, eating and trying out different kinds of food. Anyway, to make the long story short, we came across the most amazing shrimp spaghetti I've ever had in my life. And since we're heading back to Athens, we just had to go back to that restaurant and have it again. You see, our waiter said that they'll open at 12, but when we got there, we found out that they open at 1. Which was a problem because we had to be at the airport at that time. So we ended up looking for another place to eat, and as we were looking for a restaurant, we came across this. It's some kind of a parade. I tried looking it up and found out that here in Santorini, they have a lot of cultural and festival events all throughout the year. But this one I found out is a big one. It's a public holiday called the Ohi Day, which is celebrated every year all throughout Greece, Cyprus, and Greek communities all around the world. This holiday started on October 28, 1940, when the Greek Prime Minister at that time rejected the ultimatum made by Mussolini to let Greece allow his army to enter and occupy parts of the country or face war. Well, the Greek Prime Minister simply said "Ohi," which means no, and in response, Italian troops attacked the Greek border that eventually led the country of Greece to join World War II. Anyway, people in Greece gathered in the streets in protest after what happened, and so the holiday was created. Every year after 1942 on October 28th, to celebrate that event, military and student parades are held all over Greece. You'll also see the national flag everywhere, from public buildings to people's homes. Oh, and since it's a national holiday, schools and most businesses are closed, except for restaurants and bars. And I've read that Greek museums and ancient sites like the Acropolis are open and is free of charge. Okay, so the restaurant was closed. It's gonna open at 1. So we're gonna have to look for another restaurant. Most of them are still closed, but I hope we can find one before we leave. So, heading this way. We didn't spend too much time looking around and decided to eat here, which was the first restaurant we saw that was open. It actually turned out perfect because they gave us this table with this amazing view. The only problem was, as usual, they had music playing, which means I have to do voiceover again and replace the audio. Anyway, since we're both craving that shrimp spaghetti we had the day before, she ordered the shrimp pasta with avocado and basil sauce. And for me, I decided to get something different and got the chicken souvlaki. As we were ordering our food, I spotted the baked eggplant with cheese, which sounded good, so we added that to our order as well. And as for our drinks, we both got a bottle of their local beer. We don't usually drink beer for breakfast, but it sounded really good at that time. I mean, it's our last meal in Santorini, so why not? So this is the chicken souvlaki. It's one of Greece's most popular dishes, although I'm not really sure what the difference is between a souvlaki and a kebab, because to me it looks the same. But souvlaki originated here in Greece dating back to the Bronze Age, which started in 3200 BC. In fact, discoveries from excavations here in Santorini prove that claim, and found souvlaki had been a popular dish here in this island since 2000 BC. Anyway, as you can see, the grilled chicken is cut in chunks, served in a skewer with tomatoes, bell peppers, and a slice of lemon. And as for the sides, it came with some pita bread, tzatziki sauce, fries, and a salad. Underneath it all is some kind of yellow sauce. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm assuming it's a salad dressing. Right here is our shrimp pasta with avocado and basil sauce. It's definitely not the shrimp spaghetti we had the day before, but it kind of looks similar to it, except for the pasta and the sauce, of course. Like I said, we both really wanted to eat that spaghetti. It sucks that we weren't able to, so I think just to compensate for that, she ordered this, hoping that it would be the same. Anyway, the pasta looks really plain. There's really nothing much going on this plate except for the shrimp. But as we've learned so many times, looks can be deceiving. I've never heard of avocado and basil sauce in a pasta dish before, so to me, this one is a bit interesting. So back to my chicken souvlaki. I have to say, cutting the chicken, it felt hard and it looked really dry. So I decided to dip it in the salad dressing sauce underneath. Now you might find this strange, but I actually prefer my chicken dry, to the point where it becomes chalky. It doesn't really matter how it's cooked, I just like it like that. Anyway, the chicken was hard and dry. It's not as tender as I wanted it to be, but the grilled flavor was really good. I didn't taste the sauce at all, but the smoky flavor from the chicken was amazing. Now to try the pita bread with tzatziki sauce. First of all, the pita bread had a nice grill to it, which gave it some flavor, but to my surprise, the sauce was amazing. It's basically salted yogurt mixed with cucumbers, garlic, olive oil, and lemon juice. Having tasted the chicken, I already know that pairing it with the sauce for sure was the way to go. Both the chicken and the sauce really complemented each other. I mean, everything on this dish worked really well with each other. The fries, although it was cut like a potato chip, they were seasoned and cooked just right. And the salad, it gave a clean, fresh taste to the whole thing. You know, I can see why this dish is really popular here. Now I'm going to try the shrimp pasta. She already tasted it, and based on her reaction, she didn't seem too excited about it. Anyway, the sauce is not as rich as I wanted it to be, but I like this kind of noodles though. I actually prefer this better than the spaghetti pasta. I think this is called fettuccine, if I'm not mistaken. So the dish was good. It had a wonderful flavor, although I couldn't taste the avocado or basil. It doesn't taste like spaghetti if you're wondering. Now, as for the shrimp, it was nice and tender, but as always, it wasn't enough. As we were eating, I realized that they haven't served the baked eggplant yet, so I asked our waiter about it and found out that they forgot to include it in our order. I was going to cancel it because we needed to be at the airport soon, but the baked eggplant, or the moussaka as it's officially called, is one of the staple foods here in Greece, so we just had to try it. Well, it's a good thing there's not a lot of people at the restaurant, so we didn't wait that long. So I know on the menu it says baked eggplant with cheese, but this is actually similar to moussaka, and like I said, moussaka is one of Greece's staple food, partly because it originated here. There are many variations of this dish, depending on the country, although I think this one is not exactly the Greek version. It's basically sauteed eggplant and tomatoes, topped with cheese, then baked. You know, now that I'm looking at this, I decided to look it up and realized that this is probably not moussaka. It does have some of the same ingredients, like the eggplant and tomatoes, and it's cooked the same way, but it's the cheese that gets me. Out of all the Greek moussaka recipes I've read online, I didn't see cheese on the list. It's always with bechamel sauce, which by the way I think this one has. It's just underneath the cheese. Anyway, the dish was nice and soft, including the eggplant as well. I wouldn't say the eggplant was overcooked, where it's all mushy. It's just right. First of all, it was piping hot. I actually had to spit it out because my mouth couldn't handle it. But despite of the temperature, the dish was pretty good. I could really taste the cheese and the tomato. I don't know how to describe the bechamel sauce though, except that it was creamy. But combining all those ingredients with the eggplant, it was really good. You know, to be honest, the flavor kind of reminds me of lasagna. I think it's mostly because of the cheese and the tomatoes. I actually like it. I told her this dish really works well with the shrimp pasta she's eating. I think they both match perfectly together. Anyway, going back to the chicken souvlaki, I think the dish was pretty good. All the sides on this plate work really well with each other. The only problem I can think of is that the chicken was dry, which I don't mind. And for the shrimp pasta, you know, if we didn't have the best shrimp spaghetti in the world the day before, I think this pasta was amazing. It had a sauce that I've never tasted before, and it works. But it was just outshadowed by the spaghetti. And the baked eggplant, well, all in all, I think this dish is the best out of the three. That's all I need to say about it. So after finishing our food and sat down a little bit longer to enjoy this view, we slowly walked to the bus station, passing through a few landmarks and admiring some sceneries along the way. Alright, now we finished eating. We're at the bus stop. And it's really tough because it's hard to ask people around here. We asked them what bus is gonna go to the airport. And one guy was like, I don't know. But they're kind of rude here. To be honest, the people that work here in the bus. But they said our bus is gonna be, we found out our bus is gonna be number 3. So I'm hoping that that's the bus to the airport. So we're just waiting for it. So this is the ticket booth and everybody's trying to figure out where to go. It's kind of confusing, but if worst comes to worst, we can always take a taxi. Finally in the bus. Now those people working at the bus station, they're just probably fed up hearing the same questions every day, but it's really not that hard to figure out. It's just that there's a lot of multiple buses going through different cities within the island, and everybody's scrambling to find out what bus to take. Anyway, after 10 minutes and paying only about $4 for the both of us, we eventually made it to the airport. So this is the airport in Santorini. This is the Santorini airport. It's really small, and we made it. Yeah, so we're gonna go in, check ourselves in, and then fly back to Athens. I should have done a little bit of research before flying out of this island, because we ended up wasting a few hours waiting for our flight to leave. You see, everybody knows that you should be at the airport a few hours before your flight, you know, because you have to go to security and all. But what we found out here in Santorini, arriving at the airport 3 hours before your flight is a complete waste of time. See, we left the town of Fira at about 2 p.m. and arrived here at the airport at around 2:15, and our flight leaves at 5. I would say it only took us like 10 minutes to check in and pass security, so we pretty much sat inside the small airport for about 2 hours and 30 minutes, doing nothing but waiting for our flight to leave. Well, I'm talking about this because we could have waited for that restaurant to open. You know, the one with the most amazing shrimp spaghetti. Anyway, my point is, if you come to visit Santorini and you're leaving the island, you really don't need to rush going to the airport. Just be there an hour early and you should be fine. Alright, now that we're back in Athens, we're gonna get an Uber to go back to our hotel and pack our bags and have dinner. Our last dinner in Athens. We got our Uber. Actually, there is no Uber in Greece. It's actually taxis that are kind of like Uber. If you're gonna come here, there's no Uber. You can use Uber, but it always calls taxi and it's metered. And also one advice is that they don't really like go by the meter. They would kind of trick you in paying more. They would say, if let's say your bill is 29 euros, they'll say, oh, it's 38 flat, that's how it is, but it's actually 29. So make sure you just go by meter. You pay by meter, or if you want to tip a little bit, just add like $3 or $5 or 5 euros, and you should be good. Yeah, that's one of our mistakes. I'm actually gonna try it out right now because we got screwed twice already. But yeah, I'm gonna try it out right now and see if I can just add like 5 euros on it instead of 10. I've already talked about this on my previous video, but I really feel that taxis here overcharges people. Well, visitors or tourists at least. Considering our hotel is only like 20 minutes away and they charge you like $40 for it, that's a little too much in my opinion. Now, if they had Uber here, I'm pretty sure we would have only paid half of that. But what can you do? I know there's probably a bus or a train, but it's too much of a hassle taking it, especially if you have a lot of bags. So all I'm saying is that be prepared to pay that much for a taxi if you're coming here. Okay, so we're back at the hotel and the Uber charges 38 euros, which is, they said, is a flat rate. But on our Uber app, it says that it's metered. But so I went downstairs and talked to the guy, or the receptionist guy, and he said, no, you gotta talk to him first. So I don't know, I think we got screwed. It's hard, you know. I actually talked to the guy. I said, hey, your meter says 26, and he goes, no, that's tax, it's actually 38. So I don't know, it's just kind of tricky when it comes to Ubers here or taxis. They kind of trick you. I have that feeling, you feel like it, you know, that you're getting screwed. So I guess we got screwed, but whatever. There's no other way to get here from the airport, for us at least. But yeah, it kind of sucks that way though. You have to go through that, you know. It's better in other countries in Europe. I don't know why I'm opening that, but it's better in other countries in Europe, and where there's nothing said. You know, you put the Uber rate, that's it, nothing, no tips, nothing. But here, I don't know. To me, it's like the Philippines, but that's how it is. Same as the Philippines. It's a flat rate or metered. They actually don't do metered in the Philippines. just kind of talk to them and be like, hey, this is how much I want to pay, you know. But I guess it's the same way here. You just got to be aggressive. So right now, we're done. We're back. This is our last night. We're gonna have dinner now. So we're gonna go out and actually out here. We're gonna go out and have dinner. I think we're gonna go back to the restaurant that we went to the first night because they're pretty good. I mean, the service is nice and the food is good. So we're gonna go. We actually made our reservations there a few days ago, right before we left going to Santorini. We kind of have a favorite spot inside the restaurant, so we wanted to make sure we get that same table. Anyway, before we went to the restaurant, we had to buy a few things first to take back home, because it's the only time we had since we're leaving the next day. And we wanted to walk around as well, just to see what the streets of Athens looks like at night. We actually just came here because we were gonna buy some stuff, like some souvenirs. But our restaurant that we reserved is like right next to our hotel, so that's where we're gonna eat. But this was just a few blocks away from our hotel. We're just gonna buy some stuff and then after that go have dinner. So this is the spot in the restaurant I was talking about. I like this spot because it's easier for me to film and most of the people eating here are seated downstairs. Anyway, before we even got to see the menu, our waiter brought us this. You see, ever since we arrived here in Greece, we've noticed that most restaurants offered us some kind of drink or a shot for free. I've talked about this drink before, so I'm just gonna describe it. It was a bit strong and dry, but had a sweet flavor. To be honest, I actually like it. First shot. So on the menu, I decided to get something I wouldn't normally order, which is the beef liver on the grill. And just in case I didn't like it, I ordered the marinated souvlaki as well, which are skewered meat, just to be safe. And for her, she ordered her favorite dish at this restaurant, which is the seafood risotto. This is actually her third time having this dish, by the way. I mean, I don't blame her. I think it's the best dish they serve in this restaurant. Well, as for our starters, we ordered the meatballs and fried potatoes without the mint. And since this is our last meal for the whole entire trip, we decided to order 2 bottles of their house wine. What is this called?
It's not even close.
What is it called?
The type of wine?
The wine, yeah. What is this called?
It's like a rosé.
No, this bottle. What did you call it?
Oh, carafe.
Karat?
Carafe.
A carafe. Looks awesome. So I'm gonna pour it. Can I see your... This is fucking dangerous, alright. It's gonna spill, watch. As I was busy trying to pour the wine, our waiter told us that they don't have the beef liver, which kinda sucks because I really wanted to try it. So instead, I asked for the sardine fillet on the grill, but they didn't have that too. So after scanning the menu for something kind of different, I eventually ended up choosing something popular, which is the moussaka with lamb. So this is the meatballs and fried potatoes, or as I like to call it, French fries. You see, she ordered a meatball dish a few days ago. I believe it's during the time we visited the Parthenon. And I remember it being so juicy and flavorful, and it's drenched with some kind of tomato sauce. It was just amazing. And comparing that with this, even though I know it's only a starter, I think they should have included at least some kind of sauce or dip with it. I'm just saying, because in my opinion, Greeks makes the best sauces ever. Anyway, looking at this, the meatball looks dry. The fries is like whatever. I mean, the presentation is just not there. The dish is actually not that appealing, to be honest. Well, as I stabbed the meatball with my fork, I have to say it was soft. I mean, the outer layer was nice and crisp, but the inner part was surprisingly soft and juicy. Honestly, I thought it was going to be dry. Now, I'm not kidding when I say this, because at first we were talking about how it looked really dry and it needs some kind of sauce. But after that first bite, for sure this dish doesn't need sauce at all. The meatball was just perfectly juicy and it had that amazing crazy flavor. I have no idea what they put in it, but I know it's something special because just like the meatball dish she had before, the flavor was simply amazing. I mean, just look at this. You can see just how juicy it is, and adding some kind of sauce would have probably changed the flavor or ruined that nice crispy outer texture. Okay, maybe a dip will do, but to me this dish was just perfect. Next is the moussaka with lamb. You know, now that I'm looking at this, the baked eggplant with cheese, which I thought was moussaka, is definitely just eggplant with cheese. This right here is the real thing. As I've mentioned, moussaka is one of Greece's staple food. There are many variations of this dish depending on the country, but this one I believe is the most famous version, created in the 1920s by a well-known Greek chef. His recipes consist of 3 layers, which are all cooked separately. Sauteed eggplant on the bottom, lightly cooked lamb with pureed tomatoes, onions, garlic, and spices in the middle, and on top is the bechamel sauce or custard. So after putting all these ingredients together, it is baked until the top layer is brown. Anyway, you'll probably see this dish all over Europe, but here in Greece, it's considered to be one of the most popular traditional dishes. I'm actually glad we ended up ordering this because it looks really good. So looking at this moussaka, the first thing I noticed is that it doesn't have any eggplant, which was kind of weird because I believe it's one of the main ingredients of this dish. But the good thing is, they didn't hold back on the lamb, and it was really tender as I cut through it. You know, what stood out for me after that bite was the bechamel sauce. Of course, I didn't know it was bechamel sauce at that time, but I knew it wasn't cheese, that's for sure. Well, the texture was light and creamy. It's really hard to describe the flavor though, but it did remind me of this baked macaroni our neighbor used to sell when I was a kid, which was really good by the way. Anyway, if I didn't know this was lamb, I wouldn't be able to tell. I mean, it doesn't taste like beef or pork. It has its own flavor. It's not gamey as you might expect. It was just different in a good way. It was really tender and breaks apart so easy as I chew it. And dipping it with the sauce enhances the flavor even more. It was surprisingly good. I have to say, everything in this dish worked really well together. The flavor of all the ingredients didn't overpower each other. We both really liked it. Now, speaking about the seafood risotto, this is basically the Greek version of risotto. I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but this is our third time here at this restaurant, and each time we came here, we ordered this. So I've talked about this dish enough, and I'm not going to talk about it anymore. All you need to know, if by chance you end up coming to this place, you definitely have to order this because it's one of the best dishes here. So moving on is the marinated souvlakia or souvlaki, which as you can see is cured meat. I've already talked about this dish earlier because I've had it for breakfast in Santorini, but that was only chicken though. This one is a mix of pork, beef, and chicken. I don't know which one's chicken, but they all
The lighter one?
maybe they all look good. Which one's the beef? Do you know?
That looks like chicken.
Yes.
This
Chicken
is beef?
soup. I think it is the pork and it is the beef.
Oh, okay. The pork, the beef, and the chicken. Thank you. It's hard to tell which one's which. Even our waiter wasn't sure. But the dish was simple. With the meat, it only had a side of baked potatoes and tomatoes. This looks really good. Try the beef. It has some olive oil right here. Very flavor, smells good. No.
Which one is that one?
What's it?
Is that the pork?
I don't know. I think it's pork, but being that the meat was very tender and juicy, it lacked some seasoning. It was kind of bland, so I added some salt to give it some flavor. It needs more salt, for sure. Better. Now to try the chicken, or what looks like chicken. You know, one thing I really like about this dish so far is the smoky grilled smell it gave out. It smells really good. So that one was definitely chicken. Same as the pork, it was tender, but the chicken tasted cleaner, if that makes any sense. And having it with potatoes was just perfect. Now to try what supposedly is the pork, which at this point I believe is the beef. It felt a bit hard, but when I sliced it with my knife, it was actually tender. Oh, and the olive oil underneath, by the way, was a nice touch. So for sure it's beef, and I have to say I like it better than the other two. But the weird part was, after chewing it for a bit, they all started to taste the same. Maybe it's because they all needed some seasoning. So the marinated souvlaki wasn't that bad. The pork, the chicken, and the beef were all tender and cooked just right. The only problem is that it lacked some seasoning, that's all. I mean, it had a nice grilled flavor to it, but it was pretty much bland. The potatoes and tomatoes, on the other hand though, they were pretty good. And speaking of the lamb moussaka, being that it was my first time to try this version, all I can say is that I loved it. The lamb was surprisingly good. You know, when a dish brings back good memories, that means it's good. Now about the meatball, this dish just came as a surprise. It looked nothing like it tasted. It was just bursting with flavor. We both really liked it. And of course the seafood risotto. I know I didn't talk about this dish on this video because I've already filmed this like twice before. So you'll just have to believe me when I say that this dish is amazing. In fact, in my opinion, it's still the best dish they have here in this restaurant. I mean, this is our third time eating at this place, and she had it every single time. That tells you something. Anyway, to sum up this whole meal, I would say the risotto was the best, followed by the meatball, then the moussaka. I think even if the souvlaki had some flavor, I would still rank them the same. Just to remind myself, our waiter gave us another bottle. This is our third. This is our third bottle. He gave this to us for free. So at this point, I was already tipsy, but ever since we arrived here in Athens, this place became our go-to restaurant. The staff here had been really friendly and welcoming. They even give us free desserts and drinks. I have to be honest though, not all their dishes here are good, but majority of them are amazing. Despite that, I really like this place and I would definitely recommend it. Just make sure to order the seafood risotto. So for dessert, we ordered this ice cream and we had no idea what it was. Having no description on the menu and it's the most expensive dessert they have, we just had to try it. First of all, just to let you know, they didn't charge us for this dessert. Our waiter told us that it was on the house. I did say I really like this place, right? Anyway, this dessert, as you can see, starting from the top is vanilla ice cream, followed by whipped cream, and underneath it all is some kind of cake. And it's all garnished with nuts and what looks like strawberry syrup. Oh wow. Well, before I took my first bite, looking at my spoon, I was kind of surprised to see this. It kind of looked like a filling inside a lemon cake. Now, I'm not sure if this is a popular dish here in Greece, but I've never seen or tried anything like this before.
What is it?
So what hit me first was the peanuts, followed by the cake at the bottom. The flavor was really familiar, but I couldn't place it until she said cassava. And she was right. It tasted exactly like cassava cake. You know, I'm not really into cassava. In fact, I don't like it. I mean, I would still eat it, but it's something I'm not gonna order. If only I knew it was in this dessert, I would have ordered something else. So basically, in other words, I didn't like it. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm sure a lot of people would probably like it. It's just that it didn't work for me. Although the ice cream was good though. That is good. It has whipped cream underneath the ice cream. So it's ice cream first, whipped cream, and then this sponge cake that kind of tastes like what that you said? Cassava cake. Yeah. And this sauce right here is cut really like sharp. Right? It's like a sharp taste, and it becomes sweet after a while. It's not strawberry. Maybe it is. I'm not sure, but it's some kind of berry. But all in all, I didn't like it. So since we weren't satisfied with that dessert, we ended up getting these ice cream from the ice cream shop right in front of our hotel. We decided to take it to my room and eat it there. Alright, we ran all the way to my room and so that this won't melt. And this is our last dessert here on our trip. That's to top it off. And tomorrow we leave to the US. We go back to California and go back to work, which is so sad. But here, let's try to and taste this ice cream. Gosh, melting. So we had this ice cream because we weren't satisfied of the dessert that they had in the restaurant. But anyway, it's actually, I don't know, it's not really ice cream.
Soft serve.
It's like soft serve. Look, it's all over my finger. Whatever. There you go. Oh, thank you. It's like sundae, but not really. Sunday's a lot better, to be honest. Like the McDonald's sundae. I don't know if I can get to the part here on the crust, but I'm gonna try and get it.
The cone?
Yeah, the cone, so I can sorry, the cone, so I can end this video. And then we're gonna go home tomorrow. See, I'm already packed. Not really. But we're gonna pack tonight, and then we're done. Well, this whole trip is done. Go.
It's chicken.
Oh.
Oh!
God. Whatever.
Look at the blanket.
Smelled last night. Too much peanuts. We had to get up early the next day for our flight back home, which was kind of sad because that means our adventure is over, but it felt good at the same time because we were both really tired and wanted to go home. So to sum up the whole trip, Traveling to 3 countries and seeing so many landmarks that I can't even count, there's a few significant landmarks we've visited and food we ate that I'll never forget. Starting in Dublin, the places that stood out for me was the Trinity College where we saw the Book of Kells and the old library.
Yeah, the lighting is it's really dark here. But what's really interesting about this place is the smell. It smells like old wood. Kind of wet too.
The Temple Bar where we pretty much ended up our day every night.
We should go there, get a beer. Oh my god, it's really good.
A few popular bridges that we walked across.
So this is the Sean O'Casey, if I'm saying that right, bridge. It's a pedestrian bridge. So this is the Beckett Bridge. What is it called? Anthony Beckett Bridge? No. It's not as doesn't bounce like the other bridge. Because it's more sturdy.
The Spire of Dublin.
So I'm sitting here right in the middle of the street because I need to film that. And right in front of the Spire is the General Post Office. It's actually the headquarters of the Irish Post Office. Or I guess the headquarters of Ireland, right? The Post Office of Ireland. It's that one.
The Jameson's Museum, where we took a tour and learned about its history.
This was Dublin back then, and it was very different to Dublin today because we were in the middle of a population boom.
The Phoenix Park, where we ended up walking for miles hoping to see a deer.
I don't see no deers. I don't see any deers.
The Dublin Castle, where we took a tour and found out some interesting facts about Ireland.
So this is the throne room. It obviously is where the king sits. But what's really cool about it is that the chair is huge. It says right there in the card, "I am old and delicate. Please do not sit on me."
The St. Patrick's Cathedral.
Chairs and stuff, but that's St. Patrick's Cathedral right there. We're gonna go inside that right now. The church is not that big. It's pretty small, but it's really nice. It's interesting. Really old though.
And finally, the Guinness Museum, where we decided not to take a tour.
We decided we're not gonna take a tour, but we're gonna have a drink. We're gonna have a beer, right? Guinness.
And as for the food, I would say the most significant dishes that stood out for me was the traditional corned beef, the full Irish breakfast, the most amazing shepherd's pie I've ever had. Well, it's actually my first and still the only one I've had so far. The oysters, which by the way was also the first I've ever had in my life. And I have to say it got me hooked, and it has become one of my favorite seafood. In fact, I just had oysters yesterday. And finally, of course, the Guinness beer. Obviously, it's not a dish, but I just had to include it.
Oh, God. It's exactly how I remember it. Bitter. Very bitter.
Next is Prague, which is in the Czech Republic. So the places that really stood out for me here was the astronomical clock, which I couldn't get enough of. Even though it was right next to our hotel, we ended up seeing it every day.
I'm right in front of the astronomical clock, and somebody's actually getting married right there. See those two? They're taking pictures of the clock, in front of the clock.
Then the Old Town Square, where you'll find a whole bunch of landmarks, including the astronomical clock. We actually ended our day here every night, walking around and watching people. Next is the Charles Bridge. Now I don't remember how many times we crossed this bridge, but it's a lot.
Yeah, that's Charles Bridge right there. And we're gonna cross it all the way to the castle. We're gonna go right there to the castle.
The Prague Castle, where we took a tour and saw the Vitus Cathedral and a whole bunch of landmarks and buildings inside. Then the Wenceslas Square, which is located at the new town section of Prague.
So I'm right in front of the statue. This is called the statue of Saint Wenceslas. And then right behind it is the National Museum of Prague.
I know it doesn't seem a lot, but we saw so many landmarks and visited a lot of places in this city. If I'm going to name all the significant and important landmarks we saw, it will just be too much. I'm never going to finish this video. Anyway, about the food, I would say the dishes that stood out for me the most is the beef goulash. Although the best one I've had was in Vienna, but this one was pretty good too. The grilled Polish sausage, which I could probably eat every day.
Crunchy.
The roasted pork knee, which caught me by surprise because I wasn't expecting it to be served like this. Well, it turns out it was absolutely amazing. It's actually one of my favorite dishes in this trip. And lastly, the pork ribs. I've had this in another restaurant here in Prague, but this specific one right here is the best. In fact, it's probably the best pork ribs I've ever had so far. So finally in Athens and Santorini. Well, the places that stood out for me here was the temple of Olympian Zeus, just because it was the first ancient temple or site we visited.
Okay, we're right in front of the temple of Zeus. But man, it's really hot. Yeah, I think I'm gonna get sunburned today. But, because from here we're gonna go walk all the way to Acropolis, or I think we're in the Acropolis already, but that's the Parthenon. Right? Yeah, the Parthenon up there. We're gonna go there.
The Parthenon, located in Acropolis, which is also one of the significant places we visited, because you'll find more ancient temples and landmarks here aside from the Parthenon.
And then after this, we're gonna go down and then go see some more landmarks.
The Plaka district, which I think is the best area in Athens. I could be wrong, but you'll find pretty much everything in this neighborhood.
Restaurants on the left and on the right. I guess this is really what Athens looks like when you walk around in this district.
And then we have Santorini, which is, I believe in itself, is a very significant place as a whole. I'll definitely never forget this island and its food. And speaking of food, I would say what I remember the most, or the dishes that stood out the most for me, is the Greek seafood risotto called Risotto. We had this dish like 3 times. It was that good. Next is the stewed meatball. I had no idea what ingredients they had in this, but it's the most flavorful meatball I've ever had in my life so far. It was simply amazing. Then the beef and lamb kebab. Now, I've had kebab many times before, and they were all pretty good, just like this one, but this was the most juiciest and the most tender of them all. Now in Santorini, the dishes that stood out for me was the grilled octopus. You know, even though it was a little tough, the flavor was just amazing, especially when you add lemon. Next is the stuffed squid. Now I'm not sure what they stuffed this with other than cheese, but the sauce was the thing that really made this dish. And finally, the shrimp spaghetti. I know this dish ended up last on my list, which was just appropriate, because like I said in my video, this was the best dish I've ever had in this entire trip, and that's including Dublin and Prague. Now, if you've seen all my videos and saw all the food we ate, you're probably thinking how the hell spaghetti ended up to be the best. Well, it's simply because it's the best spaghetti I've ever had in my life. I've never had spaghetti this good before. The taste or the flavor is something I can't explain or describe in words. You just have to try this specific dish at this specific restaurant to understand what I'm saying.
Oh my god. Very good. It's really amazing.
Anyway, we had an amazing time in this whole entire trip, starting in Dublin, then Prague, and ending in Athens and Santorini. Each country is rich with history and culture. You can tell by the people living there that they're very proud of it. There is really no way I can say which one is the best, because they're all very different in many ways. It's basically a matter of opinion at that point. I know I've said that I love Prague. It's because I've been there a few years before, and I just fell in love with the city. So even before this trip, I already had that biased opinion about Prague. But despite that, I still enjoy Dublin, Athens, and Santorini all the same. Now about the food. If I'm going to choose which country had the best food, in my opinion, based on my short experience during this trip, I would say for me, Greece is number 1, second is the Czech Republic, and third is Ireland. So now, as always, I'm looking forward to see what's next. We've already planned our next trip, but because of what's happening in our world right now, we'll just have to wait and pray that things will get better. So until then, I'll just have to find something else to do.
What's the